My name is Troy Mills, and I have the privilege of being the president of the Jasper Park Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for taking time out of your extremely busy days here this morning to have our town hall. And thank you to the Alberta Chamber of Commerce and Shauna Feith, the president, for assisting in conducting today's town hall meeting. I hope you're well and you're doing your absolute best to navigate through these very challenging times we face. There are many hurdles along the way to recovery, rebuilding, and reopening, and we hope today's town hall can further assist with this process. We are delighted today to have some incredible individuals on this call, and today's speakers include Aaron Saunders, Manager of Realty and Municipal Services for Parks Canada; Christopher McPherson, the Deputy Minister of Jobs, Economy and Trade, Government Alberta; Beth Sanders, Director of Urban Design and Standards for the Municipality of Jasper; and finally, Logan Ireland, Operations Manager for the Jasper Recovery Coalition. Before we start today's town hall meeting, I just wanted to take a moment and recognize the efforts of the last 13 years of the wonderful service to the community of Jasper of Miss Patty Pavlov, who has officially passed the torch to our new Executive Director, Mr. Paul Butler, and has taken a few steps towards a long and much-deserved retirement for Patty. Thank you so very much for everything that you've contributed to the Jasper Park Chamber of Commerce over your tenure. The dedication shown over the years doesn't go unnoticed, and we are very grateful for all you did for the businesses in the community of Jasper. I would now like to pass things over to Shauna, who will be moderating today's session. Please be very engaging, and hopefully this is very beneficial for you all. And once again, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on the call today.
Thanks so much, Troy. And I'm Shauna Feith. I'm President and CEO of the Alberta Chambers of Commerce, and we've been very happy to support the Jasper Park Chamber in these town halls that we've been hosting, but also in any way that we can to ensure that they're there to support the business community in Jasper. And just know, as we've previously stated, that, you know, our thoughts have been with you through this entire time. And the purpose of this town hall is really to provide you with some additional information and give you a forum for asking any questions that you have around what you're currently experiencing in terms of getting back into your businesses and operations. So with that said, I just want to also echo Troy's comments about Patty. Patty, so happy that we've been able to work together more closely, you know, and just really want to thank you for your service to the Chamber community, and just know that you're going to be missed, and we'll stay in touch though. And I know that you're still in the Jasper community, so you're still there to support and be a part of the next phase for Jasper. And best of luck with your teaching as you move forward into your semi-retirement. So thank you so much again for your service, Patty. So we've had some changes to the speakers lineup, and so I'm just gonna kind of go through. We have all levels of government with us here today, and what I would do too is just ask any of the speakers to, you know, provide room for questions and be prepared for those answers. I also want to note that I see we have Gerald Soroka's on the call as well. Nice to see you, Gerald. I saw that Martin Long is also on the call, so just want to say hi to you, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. So without further ado, we're going to go right into Parks Canada presentation. So I have on my list that Alan Fair, Superintendent for the Jasper Field Unit, Kendra Van Dyke, Executive for the Rebuild, and Aaron Sanders, Manager of Realty and Municipal Affairs for Parks Canada, are all going to be on the call with me. So if I could pass over to Alan, do you want to begin? Would that work?
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
yes.
thank
Can you hear
Alan.
me?
Yes.
Can you
perfect.
hear me fine?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and thanks for having me here today. Many of you will know me. My name is Alan Fair. I'm the superintendent for Jasper National Park, and I'm joined today by Kendra Van Dyke, one of our Parks Canada executives, who's dedicated to supporting the recovery in Jasper, both the town and the park as a whole. I'm also joined by Aaron Saunders, who some of you may know already. She was our realty manager, but she's now dedicated to lead the development review portion of the Jasper Recovery Coordination Center. So I've just got a few remarks, and then I'm going to pass it over to Kendra as the executive leading the recovery. So Jasper is, of course, a national park community, and it's a source of pride for all Canadians. It's been evident from what we've heard across the country since this tragic incident that people really deeply care about the park as a whole, and of course the town Jasper itself. Parks Canada manages Jasper and all national parks and sites on behalf of Canadians. And I can tell you that Jasper has been in the hearts of Parks Canada team members from across the country, many of whom are working diligently to support the recovery efforts underway. So we've got the full weight of the agency assisting us. As an organization, we're deeply committed to Jasper's recovery. As a superintendent for Jasper National Park, I want to emphasize the important role that you, as part of the local business community, play in enhancing the quality of life for residents and the experiences of visitors who come to connect to this special place. And I'd like to thank you for being a part of this strong community as we work together to move forward. I'm going to share some updates with you on the hard work underway by many organizations and individuals to support Jasper's recovery, and I invite you to share your questions afterwards if there's anything I can help clarify. Unified command between Parks Canada and the municipality of Jasper transitioned to the Jasper Recovery Coordination Center. We call it the JRCC on August 22nd. And that was to guide the recovery effort with support from all levels of government. The JRCC is comprised of local, regional, and national Parks Canada team members, and team members drawn from the municipality of Jasper's administration and operations sections. And there's been assistance from many other agencies. The recovery efforts have included reopening major transportation corridors of Highway 16 and the Icefields Parkway. Moline Road and Highway 93 are undergoing hazard tree removal and structural assessments before permitting safe access to these areas to the public. Many front country areas and visitor experiences outside the burn area, such as Miat Hot Springs and Columbia Icefield, were open soon after critical park services were reinstated. And I should just remind people that reopening visitor offers in areas outside the town requires removing hazards such as fallen trees, assessing trail conditions, repairing infrastructure, and restoring several services, including things like emergency response, visitor safety, garbage collection, washroom cleaning, human-wildlife coexistence, and facilities maintenance. As a result of these efforts, we've reopened many areas in Jasper National Park. You can find a complete list on our website. And as recently as last Thursday, we reopened some of the most visited areas of the park, including the Athabasca Falls, Old Fort Point, which is just outside town, the Jasper National Park Visitor Information Center, the Lake Annette, Lake Edith areas are both open, Lac Beauvert, which is adjacent to Jasper Park Lodge, many of the trails in that area, the Pyramid Bench Fire Road Trail, and the area downstream on the Athabasca River is downstream from Old Fort Point is now open. And we're going to continue to assess the fire impacted areas and facilities with the goal of reopening more areas when it's safe to do so. And we expect that so thus far we've been able to reopen areas on a almost a weekly basis, and we'll continue to share those updates as progress is made. Just changing kind of the channel a tiny bit here. On September 18th, the Government of Canada introduced legislation which would enable the transfer of some of the land use planning and development authorities from Parks Canada to the municipality of Jasper. I want to make sure that I mention some of this because sometimes this can be confusing in how things have been communicated, or people are not quite clear on the division of authorities and such. So this transfer is a result of Parks Canada and the municipality of Jasper working closely together, which will continue even once the transfer occurs, as Parks Canada will always have a role in ensuring the national park community is managed on behalf of all Canadians. So once this enabling legislation passes, there's a number of steps that would need to take place, including establishing the community plan and land use bylaw for the town of Jasper and some other legislative requirements, all of which still require involvement and approval from Parks Canada, given that Jasper is a national park community. Until those steps are completed, the authority for land use planning and development remains solely with Parks Canada for the immediate future. We are now working more closely than ever with the municipality and will continue to do so and continue to be open to receiving applications. And so at this point, I'm just going to turn it over to Kendra. So she's going to talk a little bit more in depth about what that actually means. So Parks Canada is working closely with the municipality of Jasper. Parks Canada still retains the authorities, but we are working very hand in glove with the municipality to ensure that we can streamline processes and move things along as quickly as possible. So I'll turn it over now to Kendra. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having us today. Currently, and since the days following the wildfire, I think that's when I first met Beth Sanders, who I know is also on the call and will speak later. Parks Canada and the municipality of Jasper have been working side by side on ways to streamline processes and remove barriers to development for Jasperites as they plan to rebuild their homes and businesses. As Superintendent Fair mentioned moments ago, planning and development work underway, and the potential changes in the coming weeks and months will be made under Parks Canada's existing authorities and only with close involvement every step of the way from our partners at the municipality, both in administration and council. A recent example of this work and our collaboration is expediting the process for demolition permits. We work together to simplify requirements and approval phases into a single permit application to enable site preparation to occur more quickly for Jasperites. More information on that process can be found on either Parks Canada's rebuilding website and on the municipality's website. In terms of planning to rebuild, again, we are working closely together, closer than ever, I might argue, on a phased approach to support residents and businesses who lost structures during the wildfire. Together, our teams have been looking carefully at ways to simplify and streamline the review process to support you as you rebuild. We are looking at options for reducing administrative requirements, including consolidating permit applications, types, and also waiving the period for notification of intent to rebuild until further notice. We hope to be able to provide more information on the specifics of this important work in the coming weeks. In conclusion, as we make our way through the ongoing recovery process, please remember that we are here with you and we will be here each step of the way. Please rest assured, as Alan mentioned earlier, Parks Canada remains committed to supporting the recovery of Jasper. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to our continued partnership. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kendra. And Erin, did you have anything that you wanted to add? I know you're on the call as well.
Hi everyone, just to say hello, for those that don't know me or haven't seen me in person, my name is Erin Saunders and I'm the Manager of Realty and Municipal Services. And as Alan said, my role right now is really supporting the development and demolition permits for inside the town site as well as outside, as well as working very closely with Beth and her team to redevelop our land use policy.
Perfect. Thanks, Erin. And now I'm going to just ask MP Soroka for Yellowhead if you have any additional comments you want to bring.
Well, welcome everyone, and I'm sorry everyone's having to go through this. I know Alan did bring up about the land use agreement that's happening with the town of Jasper and Parks Canada, or Environment Canada. To give you an idea of how quickly this is going through the House, normal legislation takes at least 6 months normally to go through. In the first week coming back, it was passed with unanimous consent, meaning that it did not actually have a vote. Just every party in the House did agree to it. So it's moving very quickly, and it's still probably going to take a two to 3 months, I'm guessing, for it to be changed over fully. It's more to deal with now the bureaucracy, as well as government Alberta falling underneath municipal affairs now. So there's a few things to be done that are out of our control, but it will take time. But in the future, Jasper will have land use agreements, and they'll be in charge of the redevelopment. So that's all I really wanted to bring forward.
Thanks so much, MP Soroka. And so at this time, are there any questions from the group at Parks Canada? So if you have any questions, you can either log them in the chat or use the raise hand function on the Zoom. You can find the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. All right, well, and we'll also save time at the end for questions if anybody has any of our presenters. So just feel free to log those at any time. So now we're going to pass over to the Government of Alberta. Chris McPherson, the Deputy Minister of Jobs, Economy and Trade, unfortunately is in another meeting about the Jasper rebuild and was not able to join us. So in his place, I'd like to introduce Sylvia Lepke. She is the Assistant Deputy Minister for Economic Development and Business Supports. Sylvia? All right, well, it looks like, we'll wait and introduce Sylvia as she becomes available. I know that MLA Martin Long from West Yellowhead is on the call for sure. I saw him. Martin, did you want to say anything on behalf of the Government of Alberta?
Hi, Shauna. Thank you.
Hey, Martin, sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, nothing on behalf of the Government of Alberta. But as MLA, I just want to thank everyone for taking the time. I've been spending a lot of time on the phone and on meetings similar to this over the last number of weeks, and just appreciate the feedback that people are offering. And I just appreciate how everyone is making time today, especially in the midst of going through the things you're going through. I know that many folks that are on the call today are prioritizing actually dealing with insurance, whether it be for their home or their business, and everything it takes to get their home and their family life in order. So thanks for being here today and for the feedback you guys are willing to provide, and look forward to the conversation.
Thanks so much for that, Martin. And I noticed that Sylvia has joined us. Sylvia?
Hello, there we go. Apologies for that. I had it still at 10 o'clock in my calendar with the time change. I didn't see the difference.
No worries. Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you subbing in for Chris.
Thanks, Shauna. Yeah. So I'll be subbing in for Chris, like you mentioned, and I'll be delivering his notes just for you guys. So I am Sylvia Lepke. I'm the Assistant Deputy Minister for Economic Development and Business Supports in Alberta Jobs, Economy and Trade. So thanks for joining this town hall. Thanks to the Jasper and Alberta Chambers for putting this important session on. Town halls are a very good tool to communicate and offer the supports that we have after a catastrophic event like this. So thanks for organizing. It's also a good opportunity. We're here to be able to ask questions of us about any recovery efforts and how they affect you as business owners. With me today here, I have Karina Molick, Tammy Powell, who's with the Regional Economic Development Services, and Mike Menard, who's with Municipal Affairs. And there's some other staff on the call as well, so we're prepared to answer some questions. So on behalf of Chris, he's got in his notes here that all of you are joining us here today. You've made significant contributions to your community, Alberta's economy. You've been an important part of many memorable moments for Albertans and countless visitors across the globe. That includes me. I've got lots of stories, but I won't tell them here. And your businesses make Jasper a world-class destination, which means that during times of crisis, impacts are felt here, both here and abroad. To help get your businesses back on their feet and rebuild and restore the magic that is Jasper, Alberta's government is committed to helping you navigate all available business supports. We understand the loss for Jasper businesses has been profound and extends beyond bricks and mortar to employees and residents. We know at least 35 businesses have been confirmed as fully destroyed by the wildfire, including 9 restaurants, 9 service businesses, 6 accommodations, 6 retail, and 2 attraction experience businesses. For a small community like Jasper, that's a monumental loss. We continue to advocate for coordination and swift approach from all levels of government, like we have since the threat of the wildfire began. And that means we work closely with both the municipality of Jasper and Parks Canada as they lead the wildfire recovery. Most recently, Alberta's government has provided millions in funding to the Canadian Red Cross to support those impacted by the wildfires, both businesses and residents alike. This includes Red Cross's support to small businesses and not-for-profit program. This program started taking applications on September 17th and provides direct financial assistance to eligible businesses. This includes $2,000 for small businesses and not-for-profits located in Jasper National Park and the town of Jasper, and businesses located along Highway 16 that were completely closed. In addition, there's $1,000 available for small businesses and not-for-profits located in Hinton and communities along Highway 16 up to the Alberta-BC border. So this funding is intended to support insurance deductibles and restart costs and non-insured expenses. In order to qualify for the program, you must meet the following criteria. The businesses must have had 50 employees or less. The business was a primary source of income or livelihood. The business had a net income of less than $350,000. The business must have been in operation and had all required business licenses on or before July 22nd, 2024. You must have been financially vulnerable as a result of the wildfires, and you have resumed or are intending to resume operations. So businesses can access this program through several avenues, including by calling the Canadian Red Cross or by reaching out to Red Cross personnel in Jasper and Hinton. The deadline for accessing this program is December 13th, so please don't delay. And this is a fairly quick and easy process is what I've heard. It's intended to be fairly low administration. And the CRC is also there to work with you for any unique situation that you may have. So I do encourage you to apply for this program so that I may be able to assess you if you have any further needs. Additional supports are also available through the municipality of Jasper, Community Futures West Yellowhead's Jasper Wildfire Complex Recovery Loan Program, which is a mouthful, but it is a low interest loan that's available to businesses. So as you all know, small businesses are essential to the vibrancy and success of local communities like Jasper, which is why getting your business reopened as soon as possible is critical to our work in government. We're glad to hear that as of September 23rd, more than 70 businesses had reopened. Of course, there's still more to be done. Alberta's government has made it a priority to make it as easy as possible for businesses to reopen. This includes removing red tape that was ultimately getting in the way of businesses reopening, allowing Jasper businesses governed by the Public Health Act regulations to reopen without an inspection, expediting occupational health and safety inspections, and supporting businesses through BizConnect by making referrals and supports to grants and financing. Alberta's government is also providing up to $149 million in financial support through the province's disaster recovery program. Eligible expenses under this program include for the municipality volunteer firefighter wages, local authority firefighter and municipal overtime costs, mutual aid costs for reception center accommodation, food and transportation, structural protection costs, infrastructure damage as a result of the wildfire response. Through our experience with previous wildfires, we have learned that there is no single approach that will work for every community and every business. Jasper is in its own unique situation, as are each of you here on the line today. So rest assured that JET and the rest of the GOA will be listening closely to your concerns so that we can continue to develop our coordinated approach to the Jasper recovery. I hope this town hall provides you with good information and clarity and strength so that you can move forward with making plans to rebuild your livelihood and communities, and so that you can welcome the world back to this special part of Alberta. Right. Thank you, Shauna. That's turning it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. We do have some questions rolling in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the question and then just whichever speaker is best to answer it, please jump in. So the first one is, can we please be advised when cleanup and debris removal will start?
Hello, everyone. I believe I'm best suited to answer that question. Thanks. As it's my first time to talk, I'll just say thanks everyone for being here. I really appreciate the Chamber of Commerce giving us an opportunity to connect with the public. Debris removal has started in some of the outlying commercial accommodations and is slated to begin in town within the next 3 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks. I'd like to extend my understanding to everyone. I know this is a very challenging time, and I want to thank you for your continued patience and cooperation as we move towards debris removal. The emphasis has been on safety and will continue to be on safety. That's our paramount goal. So in order to ensure that for the residents and the public and the environment, we've been carefully assessing every step of the recovery process. It's taking a little bit of time in order to get everything in place. And then once the debris removal starts, we'll all find that it'll be expedited and taken care of in a safe and swift manner. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Logan. And Logan Ireland is the operations manager for the municipality of Jasper. Logan, did you have anything additional you wanted to add before we move on?
Sure. I'll just, I'm expecting some questions, and I'm happy to have this opportunity to answer them as they come up. I can say a few things preemptively. We've been working in collaboration with multiple agencies, from Parks Canada to the Insurance Bureau of Canada, learning from history of other fire damaged communities such as Slave Lake and Fort McMurray. And through that process, it's been advised that one of the best ways to handle this process is through a mass debris removal program. And so it's been proven that that will be the safest, most expedient, and also the most cost-effective way for us to get to a complete recovery. So again, I just want to thank everyone for your patience, and I'm looking forward to answering questions directly. We're doing our best to communicate through this time. Our information team is aiming to keep you informed to the best of our ability, and I'm also here now and looking forward to answering questions directly.
Thank you, Logan. The next question that we have, I think this one maybe for you, Sylvia, is what is the turnaround timeline for the Red Cross funding? Applications have been submitted with no follow-up or updates, so I'm not sure if you have any control over that process, but
we can do a follow-up though, definitely with the Red Cross, and ask them about that. My understanding was it was supposed to be within 2 weeks. Maybe they've gotten a large influx, so we'll pass on that feedback and see what they're doing around turnaround times.
Perfect. Thank you, Sylvia. So this one, regarding camping being closed until the spring, the concerns regarding illegal camping and how that demand affects businesses and tourists. The closest open campgrounds are in Hinton, Valemont, and east of Saskatchewan River Crossing. In the best interests of tourists and businesses, is it possible to open fall and winter camping closer to the town site?
Yeah, I can answer that one. So we're hoping to open up the winter camping area of Wapiti Campground, which is just a few kilometers to the south of town. So that's what our goal is right now. Wapiti Campground was quite badly damaged in the fire. So we're still doing that assessment, but that's our hope, is that we can open that campground like we have in the past and have it available for campers passing through the area. And just while I'm talking about campgrounds, next, our intention is to we'll be opening all the campgrounds that have not been in the fire zone. So that includes Miette out by Hinton, Snaring Overflow, all the ones down the Parkway. Our goal is to open the Whistler campground. We think that that's quite feasible and possibly part of Wapiti. Wabasso campground was very badly damaged. Some of you might have read in the news. There's talk about this fire tornado that took place near Wabasso campground, so it was quite badly damaged. But just going back to the winter camping, I think our goal is to have that open so that travelers, visitors have an opportunity to stay close to town and enjoy the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. So now we'll head over to the municipality again, and I'd like to introduce Beth Sanders, who's the Director of Urban Design and Standards for the municipality of Jasper. Beth.
Thanks, Shauna.
Yes.
Nice to meet you all. I've been going back and forth between Edmonton and Jasper. So a couple of you folks we've met by email or on the phone. Many of you we haven't yet met. I started work on August 1st as the municipality's first official town planner kind of person. We were negotiating the position before the fire. I accepted the position after the fire, and the team of people I'm assembling are basically the first people to be the planning and development department for the municipality of Jasper. So this is one of the threads that Alan and Kendra were speaking to at the beginning of the call about anticipating a transfer of some of the planning and development authority from Parks Canada over to the municipality. I don't have much to add, Shauna, because Alan and Kendra very nicely laid out the work that's been underway over the last few weeks about reviewing the land use policies and the architectural motif and identifying ways to streamline development review and approval. We're looking at what kinds of things can happen in the short term that are nice and quick, easy fixes, while recognizing that in the longer term, there's some bigger conversations to have as a community about the choices we want to make, both things that were in the mix pre-fire and then of course things that are in the mix post-fire. So I'm here to answer any questions, but I don't think, Shauna, I need to take up any more airtime. Thanks. Nice to meet you all, and I look forward to meeting you in person.
Thank you, Beth. So we have some more questions, two around the housing. So the question really is $149 million is going to help those who lost their houses, but is there anything on interim housing? And then in addition to that, the next question was, is there an update on staff housing? So just anybody who wants to answer what those interim and staff housing projects are looking like going forward and what is being done to support. Who would like to take that one?
I can speak to interim housing as well. Our teams are working collaboratively with many organizations, including Parks Canada. We've been assessing land locations and also working with the government of Alberta to aim to find housing locations and units for our displaced and vulnerable residents. It's certainly a top priority. There is no direct news to share right now other that it's ongoing, and efforts to rehome Jasperites are at the top of many of our minds, and we're working on it constantly.
Maybe I could just jump in on that one as well. My name is Ethan Bain. I'm with the Government of Alberta Municipal Affairs. Just with respect to the $149 million in disaster recovery program funding that was announced earlier, that's actually going to a variety of things, including the significant expenses that went along with emergency response during the fire event and in the immediate aftermath of the fire, incurred both by the municipality of Jasper itself, as well as a number of Government of Alberta departments, including forestry, who are supporting the wildfire fighting effort. So there's a big chunk of that that's for emergency response. There's also a big chunk of that that has gone towards housing residents, both those who were housed in connection with the evacuation reception centers in Edmonton, Calgary, and Grand Prairie that were accommodated in hotels for a number of weeks. And there are a number of individuals who continue to be accommodated in transitional housing, including hotels that were in the sort of essential worker category that were needed to be back in the community to get things back, including healthcare workers, teachers, and other support staff associated with the schools. And so all of those are being accommodated in what we call transitional housing as we work to finalize the plans for what we call interim housing. And don't mean to use a bunch of confusing terms there, but we sort of refer to transitional housing as the emergency sort of shorter term piece, which is often accommodations like hotels that are not, perfect for the long term, and they're often more costly and not accommodating for people's family situations and pets and all of that stuff. And so we know that's not a long-term solution, but that's what a lot of resources are being expended on right now as we finalize the plan for interim housing, which is that more sort of medium-term piece, which includes consideration of modular housing units. We did an expression of interest out to the market for modular housing providers to provide us back some estimates on timelines that they could deliver and costs associated with that. And so I know it's a bit frustrating, but we're going through the process right now of analyzing all those bids that were received, and should have some news to communicate relatively soon around decisions on interim housing that will take us sort of not through the days, weeks period, but through the months and out to a couple years period to accommodate people in and near the community.
Thank you, Ethan. We really appreciate you jumping in and providing that additional detail. Just a quick question, just confirmation, maybe Alan with you, that the snaring cross area was not damaged. That's the question.
Yeah, so those are potentially two areas. The Saskatchewan River crossing area was not damaged. That's outside of the burn area, and it's actually that's in Banff. And the snaring campground, snaring overflow area, those two were outside the burn area, so they were not damaged.
Thanks for that, Ellen. Just want to draw attention to the chat. Karina has responded to the turnaround timeline for the Red Cross funding. She, with all of the information on where and how to contact regarding those applications. And then Sylvia, do you want to just verbally do your update, or you want me to just read it? So over 90 applications were received last week. They had advised funds are expected to start going out as early as October 15th, depending on eligibility and the vetting process. Excellent. Okay. Not seeing any additional questions in the chat, and I have my team will flag me if I'm missing anything. Hi, Beth, go ahead. I see your hand went up.
No, I see there's a question missed or not quite answered, which was Jason's question. Is there an update on staff housing plans for the winter? And that's a different nuance to the housing question. So I just wanted to flag that for you, Shauna.
Thanks for that, Beth.
I'll just chime in, maybe if it's of assistance. Yeah, we're looking at our workforce for the winter up at Marmot and all the supporting businesses that are going to grow our economy here. Actually, up here at Marmot, there's 20 centimeters of snow this morning, so winter is coming.
Wow.
And with the loss of houses in town, there's a big demand. I know Parks Canada was doing a survey, perhaps in concert with the Muni. But what we really need is a place for displaced workers, and be that NACO structures or camps or whatever have you. And I know there's a lot of conversations around that, but I'm just looking to hear if there's some sort of an update so that our workforce, our cumulative workforce, will have shelter this winter.
Who would like to take that?
Well, I'm not sure I can answer it fully, Jason, but I do know that that we've received the request from Marmot, and that the Parks and I believe some other folks were looking at that proposal, and we're just trying to find out how we can make something like that work. Because I think there was a proposal to have some housing someplace in the industrial area, I think is what the proposal was. So we are looking at that right now, but I don't have anything definitive to tell you this morning. I'd have to check back and get an answer back to you.
Thanks for that, Alan. Ethan, I noticed that you came back on camera. Did you have something to add?
If I have too much to add, but just to say, you know, in respect to the interim housing assessment process that I talked about earlier, you know, with the timelines that we're looking at, and having to potentially prepare and service sites, I would say that for that interim housing piece that we're looking at from a government perspective, it is not staff housing per se that we're looking at. And so we would focus priorities on different groups that are starting with those who are being housed in transitional housing right now. So essential workers, healthcare workers, first responders, those who absolutely need to be in the community. And we know that those who support the business sector and the tourism sector also need to be in the community. But our initial priority is going to be around sort of essential workers, first responders, healthcare, and those sectors. And then as we develop more housing options over the coming months, those will be brought in hopefully on a phased approach. But just in terms of the expectations for this winter specifically, I know there are some private operators who are looking at some potential options, but from a government perspective, we're not looking at having interim housing for staff specifically that would be in place to support this winter season.
Thank you, Ethan. So what is being planned moving forward to protect the west side of town in regards to large fire guards to ensure that the fire does not happen from there?
Yeah, thank you for that question. We currently have some fire guards that were, some of you that are from town will remember when there was a whole, there was a lot of mechanical thinning that went on. There was a period of time when there was a lot of logging trucks moving through. So some of those cut blocks were to the west of town. And what we're planning on doing as a next phase is to expand those cut blocks in towards the west. Obviously, we saw that the fire behavior with the dry and hot conditions that we're seeing more and more, like we had the heat dome a couple of years ago. So we're going to look at that area to the west. Well, we're already doing that now, and assess how we best improve that area so that we don't have any further incursions of any kind of fire that might develop. So it's a top priority for us on that front.
Thank you, Alan. So now I would like to hand over to Rod and Danielle Alskog. Am I pronouncing that right? With Alderwood Consulting to just do a quick presentation on some of the opportunities and services available to the business community.
Good morning,
Rod and Danielle.
Yeah, good old Scandinavian last names. All
So
stuff.
did I pronounce it? So say it again. Say what? How is it pronounced?
Yeah, so as if the H was an L.
Alskog.
Yes.
All right.
Our wheelhouse in here, we are both in the actual adjusting game actively. Rod does large and complex insurance claims of all kinds. And I do special investigations for things like bodily injury, slip and fall, fraud, and criminal investigations. So we're active adjusters, but we also run a consulting firm called Alderwood Consulting. And what it does is basically fill all of the risk assessment and insurance gaps that your broker and your adjusting services can't fill for you. So
the consulting business developed over a period of time as we realized that a lot of people, businesses and individuals are finding out only after the fact, when it's too late, that the policies that they thought they had purchased were not necessarily the policies that were in effect when the loss occurred. So when we're representing insurance companies as claims adjusters, we're bound by the contract that's in place at that time. The individual policyholders were left in a bit of a lurch because they didn't understand the terminology that limits the coverages provided. So Alderwood Consulting developed as a means for businesses and individuals to have their circumstances reviewed, typically in advance of a loss, with recommendations for the type of coverage that would be most beneficial in the event of a loss. Now, I understand that to some extent this is salt in the wound for people in Jasper who've already suffered these catastrophic losses. It is a service that we've provided in other communities, certainly in West Yellowhead, but unfortunately we hadn't made the presentations to Jasperites prior to this incident. We were happy to be invited to sit on this panel today. The intention was that with our collective over 50 years of experience in this industry, we could speak to some of the requirements for claims to be processed. We can't speak obviously to individual claims, but if people have questions about why the process is being done in the manner that it is, we can generally speak to those requirements and hopefully put people's minds at ease if they think that they're not being treated fairly. We've consulted with a number of people from Jasper over the previous weeks and months to give them some idea of the correct or the most beneficial process for themselves to have their claims processed. I've heard from a number of people who've suggested that they're stressed and just want to be done. They want to take a cash settlement and go somewhere else, abandon their homes in Jasper. And of course, that's not the way that most insurance policies are geared to respond. And the ultimate result is that the policy holder will end up with being shortchanged in their compensation. And I can go into more detail on that, but I don't think that it's necessary. The best way to have an insurance claim processed is to let the insurance company respond to the claim to the full extent of the policy. I understand that that's stressful for a lot of people. There's some fairly in-depth paperwork that's required to get to that stage, but people should be aware that there is a 2-year timeline to get your claim processed. And if for any reason it's not processed within that 2 years, you can extend that by filing a statement of claim. So feeling stressed because you need to get a claim processed immediately, that should not be a consideration. Take a few weeks, chill, recover, and then attack the paperwork that's necessary to get the claim moving forward.
Yeah, so just to give an example, we had an older couple who had a 50-year-old home that they lived in almost all of their married life that they lost completely in the fire, and they were tempted to cash it out. The nature of insurance, they want to make sure that they brought you back to the position that you were in before the loss, but they also don't want to incentivize taking, let's say, fire as a quick way of getting out of your house rather than selling it. So if you cash out, you'll never receive 100% of the value. Whereas if you have it rebuilt, that 50-year-old house that you would have sold on the open market with the old wiring, the old plumbing, everything like that, if you want to sell out of Jasper, you can be put up in a house, in a condo, in another town. You don't have to be on site while it's happening, But what you will have at the end of the process is a brand new house, up to code, modern wiring, modern plumbing, modern aesthetic, that you have then made additional equity on, that you will probably be able to sell well in excess of what your older home would have gone for. So you're leaving a lot of money on the table by cashing out.
Now, from an insurance claim standpoint, typically what we've done in the past is try to direct claimants to the facilities that are available to them free through the various insurance companies. And if they don't have any success in that regard, then we may be able to provide some claims advocacy services for them. But when people are already stressed and potentially financially compromised, that wouldn't be our go-to position that we'd contract out to them. If we can put them in contact with the ombuds people, with the various insurance companies to get some further consideration for their claims, particular aspects that are of a concern.
Yes, you can't look for resources that you don't know about or you don't know how to access. And everyone who has an insurance policy, their company does have either a fair practices unit or an ombudsman. There are resources to reach out past your immediate adjustment experience to access, to discuss, and maybe understand what the process is, what can be done about it, and make sure that you're getting the service you deserve. So, yeah, that's pretty much the gist of what we would bring to the table in this situation. A lot of what we do is risk assessments beforehand, site inspections, looking over your coverage, making sure that it's actually doing what you want it to do and what you think you're covered for, you're actually covered for, staff and management training for claims, things like that. But the part of our wheelhouse that would be most useful to this group right now would be answering any claims questions you may have in the aggregate rather than specific. And that's us.
Thank you, Rod and Danielle. Does anybody have any questions on the insurance? Again, you can log them in the chat or you can raise your hand and ask directly.
I noticed a question on the chat board regarding who's paying to remove debris in town. And that's actually a good question. It's something that popped into my mind when I was listening to the discussions about the mass cleanup. The most insurance policies, and again, I can't speak to specifics, but most insurance policies, commercial and private property, have an element of coverage for debris removal. If the municipality is taking responsibility for having that debris removed, I don't know how the insurance companies will respond to providing compensation back to the municipality or whoever it is that's incurring those costs up front. Ordinarily, as soon as the debris removal is authorized, the individual insurance companies affected will send in crews to take care of debris removal and begin the rebuild process.
Thanks, Rod. Logan, I'm assuming your hand's up in response to that question as well.
It is, yes. Thanks for the question, Lena. The coordinated mass debris removal program has been shown in other communities to be the most cost effective. I know there are some concerns floating around town about the pricing of some of the contractors. Ellis Don in particular, I see mentioned in your comment. The Ellis Don tender out to their subcontractors is still open and has not yet closed. It will close soon this week. That's for the subcontractors and also the hygienists who are being contracted to ensure safety and dust containment and asbestos abatement during the entire procedure. So I want to attempt to alleviate some residential concerns in that there's been no pricing of Ellis Don released to the market because that's still in process. And just The ability for Ellis Don to action many properties at one time creates some efficiencies and economies of scale, and that will greatly reduce the pricing to each individual resident. The pricing will be tied to your individual lot, so there are processes in place where if they're hauling to the Grand West Yellowhead landfill, that truck will be tied to your individual property. So the actual debris removal costs will not be split up amongst residents. It will be tied directly to your property. However, the cost savings will be split up to everyone that's involved in that mass debris removal program. I hope that helps.
Thank you for that, Logan. I see there's a comment in the chat from Paul Hardy. Hi, Paul. Did you want to come on camera and ask, or you want me to just ask it on your behalf?
I'm happy to ask myself. Thanks, Shauna.
Yeah.
I just want to go back and just address what Jason's question, because I think it really is pretty broad, far-reaching in the community in terms of what is considered. I understand what essential employees are, but if we can't find adequate interim staff housing, we're going to have a major problem for this winter and the upcoming seasons. But during this, as we're trying to restart here, if we can't find housing to keep an economic engine like Marmot Basin, it's going to have tremendous trickle down throughout the community. So I just to hear that isn't a priority is very concerning. And I mean, maybe I heard that wrong, but I would like a little bit more clarity on that, please.
Thanks, Paul. I'll try and provide what clarity I can. I think just trying to be as realistic as I can in terms of allowing folks to form their expectations and make their plans. I think we are being guided in our planning by the housing application process that the municipality has administered, and that was following on the housing needs assessment survey that municipality issued and the government of Alberta supported them with. And that has given, I think, all of the three partners, Municipality of Jasper, Parks Canada, and the government of Alberta, a sort of sense of what the level of housing demand is out there. And so that is absolutely going into our considerations around interim housing and how many units need to be procured and of what type. But I just wanted to issue a note of caution to say that once we have completed our assessment of those bids that have been received, once we have some final decisions that can be communicated to the public and to the business community, and hopefully relatively soon, once we have that and fully start in earnest on the process of preparing sites, ordering units, delivering them on site, there is going to need to be a prioritization process of all the people that have identified themselves to the municipality through that application process. And very, very likely the people who are going to be at the top of the priority list through that process are those that I've termed the essential workers. And that's not to minimize the importance of staff accommodation to the community, to this community in particular, the way that the local economy works, and to the winter season. But I do want to be realistic. There's only so many units that can be procured at one time and so many units that can be delivered over the coming weeks and months. And so I don't want people to, for example, expect that at the beginning of November, there's going to be 500 modular units there for staff, because I don't think that's necessarily a realistic expectation. Being informed by all of the needs that have been identified to us through that application process. So to the extent that staff had housing needs that were identified through that process, those are absolutely being taken into consideration. My intent was not to say it's not at all a priority. It was an intent to say that we are going to have to prioritize, and so we need to manage our expectations around when things are going to be available.
Thank you, Ethan. This one is from Cam, and Cam, I would invite you to jump on and maybe add some context as well if you have anything to add. But Cam, I can speak to most of our collective experiences here. I represent 14 ownership groups with 14 different insurers, 14 different adjusters, and 14 claims people, and all of those many multiples of subcontractors the more I've seen, the more I've observed, honestly, the less I understand of this disaster process, as there's zero consistency between the insurance industry and the remediation process. Cam, did you want to add anything else to that?
No, it's, everybody now is in the very frustrated part of the process. I have, like I say, multiple ownership groups that are now getting into the really hard part of this entire process, and the lack of consistency and the timelines are what is really adding to everybody's stress levels. It's now not uncommon for there to be 2 to 3 week lags between an inquiry to your adjuster to hearing back.
Who would like to respond to that?
We can speak to the insurance part of it. Part of the reason that there has been such a variety of experiences, let's call it, across the industry is that you have 200 different insurance companies working across Canada. Those insurance companies quite often have a threshold, let's say $10 million, that they will take business to, and beyond that, insurance companies have insurance. So a secondary company, usually based out of, let's say, London, New York, large scale cities, will be the reinsurers on these. So your insurance company, if you're running a business that had a large loss, may have your insurance company, an insurance company on top of it, and quite often something called a syndicate, where there are a group of insurers who are all taking a piece of the pie. So you can have 10 different parties involved within the actual insurance company process itself. Auto insurance in Alberta is regulated. It's very consistent. There are very few things that you can do to a personal auto insurance policy to make it individualistic. Property and commercial insurance is completely different. Policies, there are general guidelines, but each company has its own rules, regulations, little nuances. So you will have different companies have different ways of adjusting, different ways of processing the claim, and each one of them is assigning their individual adjuster. And keep in mind that the week of the Jasper fire, there was also a catastrophic flood in Edson and a catastrophic hail field basically surrounding Calgary. So this was a very tough week in that adjusters got assigned. Some of them may have had an influx of 100 claims all at once. And so if you've got a claims adjuster, like Rod is a large scale loss adjuster, so he'll have between 50 and 100 claims at a time. A property adjuster for a home may have 200 or 300 claims at a time.
No, that's not to excuse the lack of communication. We'd never want to do that. It's most important to keep the lines of communication open between the very stressed property owners and to some extent equally stressed claims adjusters and insurance companies. So returning telephone calls, answering emails is paramount. But I can tell you with decades of experience in the industry that even inter-industry communications between adjusters and insurance companies suffers likewise. It's not unusual for us to spend a week or 2 weeks waiting for a response to what should have been a fairly simple claim. One other thing I'd caution, and I appreciate what Mr. Jenkins had said about this being a very difficult time. Be mindful that based on just what Danielle just talked about, the local catastrophic claims, we also have Hurricane Helene in the southeastern seaboard that's taking up a lot of attention from the insurance industry, but sucking up a whole lot of the available building materials. We encountered the same thing with Slave Lake and with Fort McMurray before, to other extents, the flooding down in Calgary and south of Calgary. Building materials are at a premium for a period of time. The insurance companies can approve the work to be done. Builders then schedule the work, but they can't get the materials to come in, which delays the process further. And at the end of the day, the property owner is seeing very little progress, and it's extremely frustrating. So, but be aware that there are a number of complicating factors that can create further stress in the process.
And that said, if you experience, let's say you are working with multiple adjusters and you find that one or two of them are deeply unresponsive to you, waiting weeks for a callback is getting to the point where something should be done. There are levels of management, and there are things like the Fair Practices Department and Ombudsman departments of different insurance companies that can get you some, fast-tracked response, or at least explain to you what's going on with your claim. So understanding that is usually helpful in having some access.
Thank you, Rod and Danielle. David, I see your hands up.
Yes, thank you, Shauna. My name is David Sorensen. I'm the Deputy Superintendent of Insurance here in Alberta, and I've been listening with interest. Really appreciate the comments from Rod and Danielle. Lots of helpful information there. Every insurance company, as they said, have levels of escalation that they must have in place in terms of complaint handling. And to all of this is the backdrop of record numbers of claims in Canada due to storm events this summer across Canada. And as Rod mentioned, outside of Canada. So resources are strapped. And yes, there are complaint escalation processes in place. The Insurance Bureau of Canada, which is an insurance industry association, also has some resources in place to help folks who are trying to make sense of the claim. I can give you the phone number. It's 1-844-227-5422. That's a resource. If you're looking for your insurance company's ombuds office, Danielle has mentioned that a few times. You can find that by searching insurance companies licensed in Alberta, Superintendent of Alberta. So put those words in a search engine, and it'll take you to the registry of insurance companies that the superintendent maintains. In that registry is the Ombuds office or complaint liaison office contact for your insurance company. The other thing I want to mention is sitting around and waiting for insurance companies to get back to you can be frustrating. Absolutely understand that. And we have to add to that the understanding that's of the reality that's facing them. But you're not without avenues, right? And one thing, I don't like to pull out the Insurance Act, but the Insurance Act does have what are called statutory conditions that apply to every property insurance policy issued in Alberta. And those statutory conditions set out kind of the basic expectations of both you as a policyholder and of the insurance company. And you can find this on the King's Printer online. Go to Section 540 of the Insurance Act and review those statutory conditions. They're also in your policy, or they should be in your policy. And it sets out kind of the basic, what can I be doing as an insured right now? I'm waiting for my insurer. Oftentimes, we expect that the insurer will come in and handle things and estimate and provide you with options. When resources are stretched thin, they do less of that. So then, the 540 will help you kind of understand what you can do to kind of pick up that ball and run with it and make sure things are continuing to move. So I offer that. Anything else that I can think of? No, at this point. So I'll give it back to the group. If you have any questions for me, please, happy to answer. But I want to again acknowledge Rod and Danielle. Lots of good information.
Thanks, David. And could I ask, could you put that 1-800 number, just put it directly into the chat so everybody can pick it up from there?
Excellent. I'll put the link to our registry in there too, and I'll also put a link to the Insurance Act.
Excellent. Thanks
It's a
so much.
reference to 540.
Perfect. Thanks so much for that, David. Okay, so going back to the chat from Stephanie, Marmot is a priority for this community. It is extremely concerning that Marmot operations are not considered a top priority. If they can't operate, we will not survive. So I'm not sure if anybody wants to respond to that.
Yeah.
Alan?
I'll jump in. I actually just raised my hand to respond to that. I just wanted to say that Marmot is a top priority. We understand the importance of Marmot for the economy and during that winter period. It's critical to the economic health of the community. And to that end, we have been prioritizing it, whether it's in checking the road, remove danger tree assessment, danger tree fulfilling, engineering assessments of the road, and so on. We've also expedited the burial of the power line because they had an overhead power line. We've expedited a new route underground so that it's not subject to fires and other forms of disturbance. So it is a priority, and we do have, as I mentioned earlier, we've got a proposal in related to Marmot, and it is a top priority for us to address. So I just wanted to reassure everybody that the winter economy is of utmost importance, especially on a year like this year.
Thank you, Alan. From Catherine, is there a timeline for when there will be new modular housing in town?
So I can attempt to address that, but probably not in a totally satisfying way. Maybe maybe municipality will want to supplement. The short answer is no, there's not a specific timeline that we can share at this point. In terms of the steps that are being taken, there has been, as I mentioned, an application process to identify housing need that's been run by the municipality. At the same time as that was going on, the municipality and the provincial government worked together on an expression of interest out to the modular providers, and we've got estimates back from them in terms of how many units they have in inventory, their manufacturing capacity, delivery times, and that is all based on sites that are prepared and serviced. And so the work that is going on right now is around confirming those sites and doing initial preparation work around providing those services. Once we made a final decision about numbers of units and where exactly they're going to go and in what configurations, which I hope will be in the very near future, we'll be able to communicate the specific timelines. The only thing I would say about that is it's not going to be, as I said earlier, like there's going to be 500 units that are plopped down on a site all at once. So once the work gets started in earnest, the units that are available will be brought in on a phased basis, sort of as available. And so I just want people to understand that those will be assigned to people based on the application process that's been run and based on the priority groups such as essential workers. That doesn't mean those units are not going to be continue to come into the community, continue to be available over the coming weeks and months. It's just that they'll not all be available at once. And so as soon as we have final confirmation on our end, like I said, of the number of units and exactly where they're going to go, we will absolutely be sharing that to facilitate people's planning. And you'll be able to get a best sense from there as to what the timeline will be. But all of that is contingent on things like delivery schedules and things like making sure we can get that site servicing work done. And some of that is contingent on weather conditions. So can't give you anything precise at this point, but just that hopefully gives you a little bit of that have to take place and the work that's going on. And I see Logan maybe wants to add to that.
Logan, you're on mute.
Thanks very much, Ethan, for that. I think that's very good and reasonable information. I just wanted to supplement that by stating that we're working on the critical path items. So while that interim modular housing piece is developing, in parallel, we're ensuring that we're doing everything we can to prepare the land so that it's ready for the eventual impending arrival of interim modular housing units should that proceed. So we're working on servicing sites with Parks Canada's impact assessment and development permit teams, and we're aiming to have progress start on that as soon as possible. So just to assuage some concerns, everything that can be done is being done, all happening in parallel. Thanks.
Thanks, Logan. I think this one might be for you as well. So with mass removal, how do you separate contents of each property per truck? Is payment divided per property? Is that for you or someone else?
Yeah, that's for me. I can speak to that as well. Thanks, Dominic, for the question. Ellis Dawn has indicated that for containment and cost allocating purposes, which are dictated by environmental regulations, OH&S, and also by the insurance company's motivations, that the haul trucks will be specific to each individual lot.
Thank you. I see Lena had a question about the Red Cross covering debris removal for those that are not insured, and that Sylvia had also responded to contact CRC.
And just to clarify, maybe if I may, that is for their business support program. I'm not sure if the question was meant for residential debris. If that's the question, then again, just contact the Red Cross because they do also have supports for individuals. But the answer is a response to the business support program.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Sylvia. Oh, and Logan had already answered that one. So this one is a new one from Anna. It's my understanding that the CN bunkhouse is empty and not being utilized, and I could be wrong. Was CN making the decision to pull out of town? Would it be possible for the municipality of Jasper to inquire about accessing that facility to create a dorm hostel style temporary accommodation for the business community to use as staff housing? I understand the complexity of organizing the intermodular style housing, which is why accessing already standing infrastructure might help speed up temporary staff housing in the immediate.
I can take a stab at that one. Pardon me, Shauna, as the official Muni person on the call. Neat idea. We'll get in touch. We'll see what happens. I'm hearing in conversations all over the place that there's a gap between when interim housing is going to arrive, because it's not going to happen in days or a week, and the need for immediate staff accommodation. So I just want to acknowledge that I hear that gap is the itchy thing in the room right now. So I want to acknowledge that, and we'll investigate CN's bunkhouse and see if that's an option at all.
Thanks, Beth. This one is from Nate. Maybe this is a dumb idea, but can we not sell some parkland to finance the housing crisis that exists? Alan, is that one for you?
Yeah, I not heard that idea before. I don't know how I would actually even go about doing that. I don't really think it's a realistic approach. I appreciate the creativity associated with it, though. But as we've heard from people, like Logan has explained quite nicely, and Ethan as well, it's not always just about the money. It's also about finding locations, getting the services, finding suppliers, and so on. So it isn't just about the money. It's in terms of to use Beth's words, to scratch the itch here and try to get to bridge this period until we have interim housing. There's a variety of different matters that are being addressed, and I can assure you that people are working full out to try to address those, because it will have an impact on everyone. It doesn't matter whether it's the community, a business, Marmot, Parks Canada. All of us are have lost staff housing, and for us to operate fully and to get to recover fully, we all need our workforce to be back, and of course, residents to have to be able to get back to their place, and for visitors to have a place to stay. So, we hear you. It is a top priority, and we'll keep pushing as quickly as we can. So, thank you.
Thanks, Alan. So Lena had a question about the composition, the size of family units, of modular housing, etc. And I noticed that, Ethan, you're quick on the draw, that you already answered, saying that there's going to be a variety of types of units, from singles to multiple bedroom units, etc. So thanks for that. From Karen, what is being done about our primary fire source? I'm going to rebuild, but still feel like there's a huge risk just above us, and is very concerning. And will this affect our insurance going forward?
Well, I can speak to the fire part. As I mentioned earlier, we've done a lot of mechanical thinning in the past, and we're going to continue to do more of that in the areas to the west and around the town. So that will continue to be the top priority as far as that goes. And also related to what I think people need to understand in terms of this fire is my understanding, and the understanding of my team and researchers, is that the fire actually did not enter town. It was the fire embers, and the embers. And this has been a situation that we've seen in other locations as well. Through the work that we do to review our policies, like the municipal building guidelines and so on, we have to ensure that the town itself, within the town, is fire safe. So we will be coming out with stronger language about not allowing cedar shake roofs and that type of thing, because that was one of the biggest sources of fire and ignition of fire in the town. So we will continue to work on the landscape level, but we also as a community have to make sure that we address those potential fire risks in the community. And that applies to some of the outlying commercial accommodation areas as well. That is something that is going to require ongoing attention by all of us.
Thank you, Alan. So this one from Tina: will there be testing for asbestos done before removal? Asbestos abatement costs will significantly increase the cost of debris removal. And then some properties are definitely not asbestos containing. Logan, is that one for you?
Yeah, I can speak to that. Thanks, Tina. That's a very good point. The contractors actioning each site will be responsible to follow OH&S guidelines and any other applicable health and safety standards. And they will be deferring to the expertise of certified industrial hygienists or registered occupational hygienists who have been contracted to ensure that asbestos and other harmful materials are tested for and treated properly. So in their expertise and guidance, if a home is deemed to not have any asbestos, then it is possible that that testing will be foregone and those costs can be decreased. And then in the event that asbestos does exist, it will be handled with direction of an expert in that field to ensure that the public remains safe throughout the duration of the process.
Thanks, Logan. This one from Catherine is, did you want to go ahead, Danielle? I saw your hand go up there.
Just to speak to that as well, especially with larger or heritage buildings. When we went on site to do first inspections, there was always a hygienist with us to check the quality. That is a process that sort of goes hand in hand with the contractor as the restoration work and emergency tear out and rebuild is done. Also, to speak to how it will affect your insurance, that is an ongoing conversation that you want to have with your broker as you're making your decisions. Your broker is your access point to what is called your underwriter, which is essentially the person that specifically rates your policy, decides what the rules of your policy are, what the ins and outs of it are. So as you go forward, you can address any concerns about how your policy will be rated, what the costs will be, to your broker, who will be able to forward that on to the appropriate group within your insurance company. And also perhaps decide whether you want to stay with the insurance company you're with going forward. Different companies have different appetites for risk, different specialties. So you can definitely ask your broker to have a look at that for you going forward, making sure your coverage is correct. From a risk management perspective, you know, getting ahead of something like this, having someone look and say, these are our recommendations for fire prevention or mitigating your losses, things like the availability of water, construction materials, landscaping to utilize fire prevention techniques, all that sort of thing. And just also going back to discussions that have been had, something you want to keep notifying your broker about going forward. Once your staff is housed in temporary housing, especially if it's part of what you're offering your staff, accommodation as part of their compensation, you want to keep having that talk with your broker, let them know where your staff are accommodated. Part of your responsibility under your insurance policy is letting your insurance company know what your risk is. It's called material change in risk. You do not want to have a material change in risk, as in what staff accommodations you're providing, where they're living, how it is, without letting your insurance company know, because you've already all been victimized by this event. You do not want to have a second claim in which they've said, well, we had no idea that your staff were housed where they were. You should have let us know. So notifying your broker of any changes in your actual operations going forward is going to be important, and it's best done in writing so that you have a record of when you sent it and that it was received.
Thank you, Danielle. Ellen, I saw that your hand went up. Is it in response to this question as well?
Yeah, well, it was in response, I guess, indirectly to what Logan mentioned earlier about the asbestos question, but they're all kind of tied together, I guess. I can answer it later if you wish.
No, go ahead.
Or comment. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to just add to what Logan said, because he made some good points there. And at the outset, he commented on the importance of when we're dealing with debris removal, the importance of safety in terms of the public, residents, visitors, and of course, environmental safety as well. And so just so that people are aware, when we're looking at you know, the approach that we're taking for debris removal, we have to consider a variety of things, including the waste receiving facility, which is in Hinton. So they've got regulations that they have to adhere to. There's Alberta OH&S. They've got regulations that they want to ensure that things are being transported appropriately, that there's dust abatement measures and so on. So there's a suite of guidelines and regulations that do manage or guide how we manage the debris, so that the ultimate goal is that the materials are removed safely and efficiently. So I just wanted to add that point.
Yes, thank you for that, Alan. So I see that we are over time and we still have quite a few questions in the chat. So I guess I would put it out to our experts on the call. Do you have an extra 15 minutes to spare to try and get through the rest of these questions, or should we look to reschedule another town hall? Logan, you're good. I see Sylvia is saying okay.
Yeah,
Alan, are you okay if we keep going for a few more minutes?
Sure. Just for a few, I can answer the one about the Whistler's Hostel. There's
Okay.
one about, yeah, it's a good question. It hasn't been had any any people in it for a number of years, so I think it's highly unlikely that that it's a realistic approach. But I think we can look into it and just see what the situation is. But most places become dilapidated pretty quickly, and that was already an old structure. Unfortunately, Hostling International's brand new hostel was one of the casualties of the fire.
Thank you for that, Alan. Just a comment from Nate. What about the proceeds from the Jasper tram sale to be given to pay for the housing crisis and purchase modular homes?
Well, that's a private sale. We have nothing to. No one would have any say in something like that. That's certainly beyond outside of my jurisdiction or responsibility.
Thanks, Alan. And then Leonard, Sandy Lyons had messaged me to just let me know that you were on the call as well. And I see you have a comment here in terms of business interruption insurance and lessons learned. So if you just want to give us an update, Leonard, in terms of, I understand you have some experience from Fort Mac, Slave Lake, etc., that you can share.
Thanks. Yes, I'm an accountant with 35 years of experience dealing with business interruption insurance, which is a not well understood form of insurance. Property insurance rebuilds the physical things, replaces your inventory, fixes the equipment, rebuilds the building. Business interruption insurance gives you back the hole in your cash flow from having had an insured event. And because every business is unique, business interruption insurance uniquely has to mirror the words of the policy, which often aren't well understood to begin with the nuances of that particular business. And so I'm working with many of the Jasper business owners, some of them on the call so far, to help them navigate their own business interruption claims. And a few things that I wanted to bring up as much as for next year's coverages. First of all, most of the businesses that I've looked at have a 12-month coverage. And from what I'm hearing, if you've had significant damage, it seems unlikely that many of the businesses will be able to be fully functioning within that 12-month period. So I want to alert all the business owners on the call that you can get more than 12-month coverage if you ask for it. I've seen 15-month coverage, 18-month, 24-month coverage. The longest in my career I've seen is 36 months. So talk to your broker. You're worried about, the fire coming from the west side next year. That's an absolutely legitimate concern. And if your business is burned or significantly damaged, consider getting longer than 12 months of coverage for your cash flow as everything else is being rebuilt. Secondly, the most difficult issue with business interruption insurance is whether a business owner had enough in place. Business interruption is really insurance on your gross margin. And in, I'd say, 80% of the cases, just to pull a number out of the air, a business is required to tell their insurance company how much insurance they want to buy. And unfortunately, because it's not a well understood insurance, it often is underinsured and there's a penalty because they didn't buy enough. So, however, some of the policies that I've seen so far have what's called actual loss sustained business interruption insurance. And that's generally available for small businesses. And when you have it, that concept of not buying enough insurance disappears. And so if your particular, it's a broker question. Can I, as the business owner, get actual loss sustained coverage? The acronym in the insurance industry is ALS. And what you would then be required, as I understand it, I'm not a broker, but you provide the insurer with your revenues from last year. And from that, they determine premiums, but it removes the requirement for the business owner to go through a somewhat complex calculation of how much they might need and then project that forward 2 to 3 years, because you're going to start it by looking at last year's financial statements, but your claim may well be on day 364 of your policy period and proceed for another year after that. So you always have to look at your last year's financials and project forward 2 or 3 years to ensure that you have enough insurance by the time your claim occurs. So if you had ALS coverage, then that element of requirement for the business owner to tell the insurance company how much they need would be gone. So ask your broker whether ALS coverage on business interruption is available from your insurer, and that may be a reason to look at other insurers to see if it's available. The third element is there's again a little known option within business interruption insurance to attach your policy to a contributing property, it's called. And the one that jumps to mind is Marmot Basin. People have talked about if Marmot, on this call, if Marmot Basin can't get staff housing, then it's going to impact the whole town. Well, that said, if something were to happen to Marmot Basin next time, and I've had various claims over the years with ski hills, I've had 2 lodges that burned down, I've had gondolas that are damaged and go slower thereafter and therefore can't accommodate as many skiers. A business owner in town has the opportunity to contact their broker and say, if something happens to Marmot Basin, I want my policy to respond, because there aren't going to be skiers in town during that important winter season. And therefore, I want my business interruption to trigger if there is an insurable event at Marmot Basin and they can't operate. So again, that's I haven't seen one of those attachments yet within the policies I've seen, but I think it's if you feel that your business, a restaurant, is significantly would be impacted if Marmot Basin went down, this is an opportunity to insure that risk away and protect your cash flow, not only from if you have a fire, a flood, or an explosion, but if Marmot Basin has a fire, a flood, or an explosion. So I'd encourage business owners looking at next year's coverage to look at all those things. Does ALS for business interruption available to them? Consider moving from 12 months to 18 months or 2 years, and whether contingent coverage with Marmot Basin might be a reasonable thing to put in their policy.
Well, thanks so much for that, Leonard. We had an additional expert on the call today, so bonus. So I will just pass back over to Troy, but I just want to say first, thank you so much to everybody for joining us. Thank you to all of our representatives from the various levels of government and the expertise that was shared on the call. And we hope this was really valuable in terms of answering some questions. So Troy, can I pass back to you for final comments?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Shauna. And again, thank you to everybody that took the time out of your day, and for those that were able to stick around a little longer. I think we will, further discuss with our executive board and our new director and Shauna as well. I think this was very valuable and something that we can look at doing again in the coming weeks, as we had a really good turnout, some really good engagement, some really good questions. So definitely something that we will focus in on and see if we can offer that again. But again, thank you to all of our speakers, different levels of government, municipality and parks, Logan, Leonard, everyone that came on. We truly appreciate your time. For everyone that's on the call, we hope this was of a beneficial time this morning. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself, Paul Butler, or anyone that spoke on this call, and we will do our absolute best to facilitate any of those questions and help where we can. So again, thank you so much, and take care, be safe, and continue to take these little steps moving forward the best we can.
Bye, everybody.
Have a great day.